Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another Walking Dead video. So in this one here, I wanted to talk about the ratings, and I wanted to talk about some more stuff regarding the Walking Dead universe, or I guess more specifically with the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. So before we go any further, obviously make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Also, last night, I was actually streaming on Twitch, and we did find a game to play. It's a new Walking Dead game. It's actually called The Walking Dead Betrayal, and it's actually a pretty decent game. I think it's actually free for the weekend, and I'm not sponsored saying all this. I'm only saying this because I will actually be streaming this again tonight, and yeah, it was just a lot of fun. So just, if you want to see me play some more Walking Dead games, and then maybe after this go into Telltales and all that, then make sure to go follow me on Twitch. My channel name is Appetite for the Dead, but let's actually get into the ratings talk here. And this is what I really want to get into here. So for the ratings for The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, now it gets very interesting because the thing is, when you're looking at just what the ratings were here for the first episode, the ratings are actually lower than The Walking Dead Dead City, which is like so surprising. Like honestly, very surprising. And I'm trying to understand exactly why. I mean, there's no articles that have been written yet in terms of like, did this show like break, the certain boundaries in terms of, or I guess boundaries is probably the wrong word to use there, but I guess just sort of doesn't have any records now on AMC Plus. And a lot of that stuff has yet to come out. Obviously, that stuff usually is written pretty randomly in an article that will just drop at some point. I mean, maybe tomorrow, maybe it comes out when this is released, or maybe it's next week or something like that. Like those numbers usually do take a little bit, but based off of what we got in terms of US viewers, and this is per million for episode 1 of Daryl Dixon. And I also do want to stress, because I got a lot of people questioning this part about it, but this is just based off of US viewers. So first of all, I watch in Canada. I mean, I don't have cable anymore, but if I did have cable, it still wouldn't count my view anyways, right? For anybody who watches on cable outside of the United States, your view is not counted in this here. This is just US viewers. And you also got to remember, like, this is the night of, right? The people that have actually watched the episode the night that it aired, like on that Sunday. And that's the thing, appointment viewing isn't necessarily a thing anymore. Like I noticed with AMC Plus, I think that's why it kind of works that they just release it at whatever time they release it on Sundays, right? Like they release it 3 a.m. Eastern or whatever, because people are just going to watch it whenever they have free time that day. That's sort of how people watch TV or just any sort of media nowadays, right? Like they just watch it when they have the chance. So when I look at this here, this number here overall is sort of reflective of what all of cable viewers are. And episode 1, which is called, well, I'm not going to be able to say that. It's like Lame Purdue or something like that. But basically, I believe in English, that means the lost soul. And the viewers for this episode were 0.631 million. So 0.631 of a million. Episode 1 for Dead City, titled Old Acquaintances, was actually 0.704. So it had about 70,000 people in the US watch it, more than episode 1. Now, when you're actually looking at the ratings overall for Dead City, I mean, Dead City's ratings, honestly, are very weird. And we haven't talked about this because I haven't really had to do a video on Dead City's ratings, like, overall. But when you're looking at it, episode 1 had 0.704, episode 2, 0.706. So episode 2 actually increased a little bit. Episode 3 dropped to 0.681. Then it picked up to 0.697. Then it picked up again to 0.701. And then the very last episode, the finale, actually got 0.618, which is the lowest of any episode for that season, which I find really insane because to me, episode 6 was one of the best episodes. So, yeah, I think that when you're looking at the ratings like that, it is very interesting because, I mean, that show aired in summer, right? And that's during a time when shows, I mean, like The Walking Dead shouldn't necessarily get the best viewership, right? And the best ratings and all of that. And it's kind of interesting because Dead City actually did pretty good. And we remember all the records they were breaking, right? Like everything that came out about that premiere and the season and everything, it was the most watched and everything in AMC Plus's history, which is insane because you got to remember, like, the final season of The Walking Dead is also included in that. So Dead City was actually more watched than the final season of The Walking Dead. Like crazy, really crazy, right? And so when you're looking at Daryl Dixon, the ratings for the first episode, the viewership numbers anyways, aren't as high as Dead City, and that's actually just crazy because to me, Daryl Dixon's a better show than Dead City, for sure. Like, episode 1 was so mind-blowing. It was honestly insane, and I mean, I think it has to do with marketing. When you really look at Dead City and the promotion that was happening, like, there was so much of it, right? And Daryl Dixon, there was quite a bit of it, but there hasn't been a lot of promotion leading up into the show. A lot of stuff online, yes, but Dead City had quite a bit of stuff, and it kind of kept continuing on and on and on. So I think if they want these numbers to pick up, they do need to do a lot more. And there has been some issues with this, right? Like, if you actually think about Dead City, before the first episode aired, they did some promotion in New York City, and it got a lot of attention. It got a pretty big buzz just around, I guess, that the area and kind of online, right? Like, they had some people dressed up as walkers in New York City. There were some pizza places that were selling certain like pizza boxes with like Dead City on it or whatever. There was some really cool stuff that they were doing there, and it kind of went around and people were talking about it. And that's the stuff that for Daryl Dixon, we did not get, right? We didn't get that at all. And I mean, I guess for Daryl Dixon, you would be doing those things in France, but that's the thing. Like, no one's able to watch in France. Like, no one over there, no one in Europe or whatever can watch this show because AMC Plus still hasn't figured out how to get the shows over there. I know people out there are watching. I've been hearing about people who live out there, you know, and their thoughts and stuff on the show. So I know they're watching somehow, but I do think this issue is going to be sorted out soon. Like, AMC Plus wasn't available in Canada for like a year, maybe a year and a half. And it was really, really rough, definitely. And eventually it just sort of appeared on there, and it's been on there for the last year or two or something now. It's been quite a while for sure, or at least 2 years or something like that for now. And so I think that, you know, that's a part of it as well. I think in other countries, there's not a lot of promotion and whatever. So I think the shows just overall don't get a lot of hype outside of the United States, which is, you know, very different, obviously, from The Walking Dead, where everyone just kind of knew about it. And that's the one thing, too. If people are talking about it around the world, even if you're from America, you might be hearing about stuff from outside of the US. And so because of that, you might tune in, right? Like, just the more people watching, the more eyes on stuff, the better, right? The better in terms of viewership numbers and all of that. And so I wonder if just the lack of that, the lack of doing some creative stuff with Daryl Dixon is why the numbers are slightly lower. Because that's the thing, they're slightly lower. It's not like dramatically lower where it's like, whoa, this show's going to flop, right? Like, in general, these numbers really don't matter because, yes, people are going to say, oh, do you remember The Walking Dead back in its heyday when it had 15 million or whatever per episode? And it's like, you know what? Back then, that's how everyone watched TV. There was no streaming services around, like maybe just Netflix. Like, that was it. And so when I look at just this here, you know, nowadays, like, there are so many streaming services and people are releasing their shows just on streaming services. It just makes sense to me overall why the numbers have dropped so much over the years. And something like this, in terms of ratings anyways, is very, very high. Like, Dead City, in terms of numbers and all of that, was actually higher than The Last of Us. And I don't know if that was just based off of cable viewers. I'm pretty sure it was something like that anyways. So there's a lot here, you know, in trying to understand a lot of this stuff. But just in general, I think going based off of the cable viewership here, it's kind of pointless at this point. Like, it's interesting to see the number and just to kind of see what that means overall. But again, like, you see a number like this in episode 1 of Daryl Dixon got 0.631. So you're going to think, well, like, cancel the show or whatever, right? The budget's very high. You're only getting that much. Like, just cancel it. Like, The Walking Dead final season got way more and had a way lower budget, you know? But the thing is, you got to remember, most people aren't watching it on cable. Like, I honestly don't know anyone who watches it on cable. Like, whenever I do polls and stuff like that or ask people about it, most people, and it really is, the majority of people watch it online on AMC Plus or however you watch it. So these numbers really honestly don't matter overall. I think it's kind of fun to talk about because it's something that we used to always talk about, because these numbers used to be very relevant, like 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago, we were all talking about the ratings and whatnot. Even 6 years ago, we were going into some of the stuff with season 8 and 9 and just, you know, the ratings for that and what it meant overall. And, you know, The Walking Dead's ratings, as high as they were in season 10, even because it was around that point, it was like 3-4 million an episode. People didn't watch. I think AMC Plus was introduced around that time, and it was still not done the same way. So, like, when I look at it overall, it's like, it makes sense. Like, I used to watch it on cable the second AMC Plus came out. I got rid of cable. I didn't watch it anymore. So I know a lot of people did the same thing, and apparently the numbers are like 15%. And again, I have no idea. You might want to clarify this just all on your own, but I heard that there was like numbers of like 15% of people who have cable are sort of getting rid of it year after year. Like, it's just a really crazy rate of people getting rid of cable, but it makes sense because like, who really has cable? And honestly, I almost want to get it back because of sports, because hockey's coming back right away, but I'm just going to have to get some sort of streaming service. There's preseason games coming out at the end of the year, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that. But yeah, I think the ratings here overall are kind of interesting, and I would like to hear your guys' explanation as to why Daryl Dixon's premiere in terms of viewership was lower than Dead Cities, because it's kind of weird because I think Daryl Dixon's a lot better, but I mean, obviously the numbers and stuff aren't everything. But yeah, definitely let me know down below. I also did see something here that I did actually want to talk about here. So Greg Nicotero, I guess, did an interview at some point, sometime recently, and I guess he was asked whether or not, like, could we see The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon go on for as long as The Walking Dead's like 11 seasons or you know, longer even, right? And apparently Nicotero had this to say here, and I'm getting this from this article. It's called superherohype.com, so I will leave a link down below the article if you do want to check this out. But the quote says, "There hasn't been a lot of discussions as of yet as to how and why and when. I doubt that we would ever want to do something that would go 12 seasons or so, like The Walking Dead. Most of the people that started watching The Walking Dead when they were kids are now graduating from college." I mean, the funny thing is like, and that's the thing though, is you don't want to go that far unless there's an actual reason to. So I kind of get that response right now. Right now, honestly, just focus on up to 4 or 5 seasons. I think in their head, that's probably how long this show's going to go for. Because I know Lauren Cohen said, like, you know, like they would like to go on for like 3, 4, 5 seasons or something. Like, I'm paraphrasing, but she said something like that. And I think that is how long they're all sort of thinking this show could go for. Or they're, you know, Dead City and Daryl Dixon. Go for 5 seasons at least. Can you hit that mark? And then once they're there, it depends on what the story is at that point, right? Like, right now it's different. We're talking about season 1. Once this show is over, we're going to be talking about season 2. It just switches that fast. And then once we're watching season 2 next year, we'll be talking about season 3, which will be airing in 2025. And then it just, again, once we're there, once we finish season 3, and then we're getting hyped for season 4, which would air in 2026. That's when we're going to be talking about, is this the final season? Where is the story going? And I think a lot of that at that point is going to really depend on what's happening with the Rick and Michonne show. It has season 2 come out yet, sort of thing, and what's going on with all of that. So it's yeah, there's a lot here. It's going to take quite a bit to really, you know, definitely like figure a lot of this stuff out here. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.